been leading for so long, and I was just stuck in one pace. And we came around a corner and moved into a headwind. And they were from me to you away. And they weren't getting any further away. It was literally what it was. I lost focus. They broke away, developed a 30 or 40 meter gap. And you don't have many times, you can't put the race on pause and say, okay, what's the best way to deal with this? Coach, what do you think I should do here? It's like, there's no pause button, there's no timeouts in running. This is it. So my attitude then was, I think I'm all out, but I can't possibly be all out. I know I'm the best guy in the field. I know I put the work in. So rather than give up, just see what happens if I try to bridge the gap. If I blow up, I'm going to finish fifth. We had such a big gap anyway, or I'm going to catch up to them and maybe put their heads in a different place and get the break. So that's what I did. I just said, please just find something, anything. You're not all out. There's fuel in the tank. You're just going through a rough patch. Pretend the finish line's at the top of this straight. It's still about 500 meters to go. Just get to the top and put yourself in contention. The last 500 meters will look after itself. But that's exactly what happened. I caught up. Two Kenyans had gone away a little bit ahead of George and Franklin. I caught up to George and Franklin. And there it was. I went from being dropped, that momentum to catch up to them, I went straight past them. Turned into the home straight, and then at that point you're seeing stars because you're very fatigued, but you're also dreaming. You're starting to imagine, okay, I'm going to cross the line, my hands are going to be up. But I need to pass these two guys that are sprinting ahead of me. I went all out. I was like, am I going to collapse, or am I going to get to the finish line first? And past David, catch up to Frank, caught up to Stephen with about 50 yards to go, past Stephen, and then you're floating. You don't remember the last 20 meters. You just you have the race in the bag and you put your arms out. And we were so cold that we could barely lift our arms. But you look back on the fact that you were dropped, to your point, and then you realize, I destroyed these guys with that last 400 meters. It was awesome, and this is what I trained for. But I overcame the gap. I overcame the tough patch. And it takes a really, really amazing talent and an amazing run to never let those gaps develop. I'm getting stronger at it. I got stronger at it later in life, and now I'm pretty strong at it to the point where after many years of injury and years of suffering and being depressed because of not being able to run, I've told myself I'm never going to let gaps develop. I'm never going to give up. If I get dropped in a race, it's just because I simply haven't done the work and I'm not good enough on the day. And it takes a while to learn it, I didn't learn it through most of college, but by my senior year, I got the picture after that race. I was like, you always have something in the tank. So it's great, especially when you're in a team situation, you're motivated. If your team is vying for a championship, against or just a dual meet against a rival high school, and you feel like you're all out, and rival high school is right in front of you, know that you're not all out. You're not all out because you're still growing. If you're all out, you're going to be on the ground, you're going to be exhausted. Steve Jones, a great mentor of mine, former world marathon record holder, was once asked after a cross-country race, how do you know if you've ran hard enough? And he said, well, if I'm still standing at the end of a cross-country race, hit me with a plank of wood, because it means I didn't run hard enough. And Jonesy's a bit of a cycle, but in many regards he's right. You can always pass them, you can always go a little bit deeper. Just different people have different pain tolerances, Lots of hill reps and lots of tough running in the winter will develop pain tolerance.
What's it like growing up in Ireland? What kind of support for young runners is the culture? We always think of Ireland as a culture that support. I know soccer's probably king, but also respects the history of cross country over there.
Yeah, it does, and I mean, unfortunately, as a result of you've gone into a whole different set of circumstances here, but long and short of it is as a result of affluence, and that Ireland went from being quite a poor country to quite a wealthy country in a very short period of time. The phenomenon called the Celtic Tiger, where a lot of American companies based their European headquarters as a result of the government tax cut. Well, a lot of jobs came to Ireland and a lot of affluence came to Ireland, and the last 10 years the country has become very Americanized, or globalized, should I say, really, now that we live in a global economy where kids are a little bit more motivated by computer games and you know, Facebook and a lot of the technology out there, they're not getting it running as much. Still playing a huge amount of soccer, but the running numbers have definitely gone down. My generation was one of the last generations to still have a thriving underage club system. So in America, where the high school system is king in terms of you run for your high school. In Ireland, we ran for our school, but second to running for our club. So I ran for my local running club in high school, and we compete against all the other local running clubs on a national level. So I was exposed to pretty intense competition on club level and weekend level, away from having to do it for a school, so you can actually structure your training a little bit better, pick your races a little bit better. So you don't have to adhere to a very strict number of races in season. So I ran for a club and competed on international level when I was very young. I'd be underage. We'd race against the best clubs in the UK, or we'd race. I went to a Catholic school, and we would race in the European Catholic Schools Championship, so we'd race against schools in Belgium and schools in Germany, and so kind of got the eyes open to a lot of that. And cross country is definitely very respected, and running in general is very respected, but it's kind of lost its luster a little bit as a result of Athens, because we all know running is very hard. And since a lot of the technology came to Ireland a little bit later, kids tend to spend a little bit more time in front of the television, and we're trying to change that. The country's really putting a big move in trying to change that and get the kids motivated to go out and do sports again. So as long as we win at something, so it's right now rugby is the big sport in Ireland because we're having a lot of success. But still a small country. Ireland's only 4 million people, and it's pretty amazing to have consistent world-class athletes across different sports in such a small country.
Over the years, I've seen all the runners that are strong, like 5,000 meters, 10,000 meters, and then they show up on the marathon. So, you ever thought about longer distances?
Yeah, I did, and that's kind of what developed the injury problems. So I have terrible posture. Now, one part of it is because I was lazy growing up, but another part of it is genetics. I have a curvature of my spine, so I'm 6'3", but I walk around like I'm kind of 5'10" with this terrible curvature of my spine. And the longer distances, the more time I spend running, the more fatigue I get, and the more that accentuates itself. And I develop a lot of hip and shin problems. But if I can get back, I do definitely want to give the marathon a go. I think I'd be very suited to a marathon because I've got a good energy system. I don't have a very high sweat rate, which is a problem for a lot of people in the marathon. And I'm pretty good on a bike and things like that, and endurance has never been a problem. It's always been a mechanical flaw. So no question, I've huge goals to at least compete well on a marathon. To run a marathon is not a big deal. Anybody here can run a marathon. Just to run one, but it's to race one is the challenge. To run a 5-minute mile pace for a marathon. And if I was doing a marathon, that would be my goal, to run 2:12 or 2:13 to try and qualify for championships. But if I can't do that, yeah, maybe I'll run some marathons for fun. Get JR after an event and maybe run the Boston Marathon or something. But I've run many 20, 22 miles in training where I was running very, very fast towards the end. So hopefully, if I can get this knee fixed, maybe next fall 2010, give it go, maybe go to Chicago or something and get after it. No question. All right, guys, I've talked long enough, but you can email me anytime, guys. If you ever want some information, or coach, if you ever have any questions, I've drawn from a lot of experience and know a lot of people, so you can shoot me an email anytime. I can leave my cards with some of you guys, and good luck in your season, whether it's college season or high school season. Good luck with training, everybody, and thanks for listening, and thanks for coming out.
Okay, I just want to thank George Toll for acquiring Luther Bonney Hall in the auditorium, and thank you, Keith. That was pretty informative and pretty interesting. Good luck with everything, by the way.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you guys for coming.